Daf Lamed Hey, Amid Aleph. We saw the Mishnah, the special clothing of the Kohen Gadol that he would go once he's changed into the Kohen Gadol's garments for Yom Kippur. So he would, in order to do that, he would go to the mikveh at the Beis HaParva, which was at the top of this chamber called Parva. My Parva. What does this Parva mean? Amar Rav Yosef said Parva Amgusha. Amgusha means a sorcerer. Parva Amgusha was the name of a person. Parva the sorcerer. And he donated this building. And as Tosafos explains, that if he donated this building, it means that he was a Jew. There was a Jewish sorcerer, and he was donated this chamber, and so therefore we named it for him. You'd have to investigate what kind of person this person was that he was a sorcerer, and that we would accept his donation for part of the Beis HaMikdash. Part in Shabbos. And as we saw before, they would put out a sadin, a cloth of linen to separate between him and the community and give him some privacy when he went to the mikveh. And as the Gemara asked before, why was it made of linen? And here's where the Gemara says this answer, that it was made of linen mainly to remind him that he's about to go into linen clothing. Now here, as we talked about last time, there was no need really for the reminder as much as the beginning, because of course right now he's about to go into the golden garment, to the linen garments. He's in the golden garments, and he doesn't have to remember as much as earlier when he was getting into the golden garments to remember, by the way, just do what you need. That's typical, but the Yom Kippur stuff, wait and don't do them because you still need linen garments. But Amar Rav Kana says, so that he shall remember that the special services for Yom Kippur, they are done in linen garments. So in the morning, he had linens that came from Pelusin, and in the evening they came from Hindayin. And the first ones were 18 zuz, the evening ones were 12 zuz, total of 30. So Gemara says, V'tana minyana salashmina. So the Mishnah is helping us count 18 and 12 equals 30, and that's the basic arithmetic is what the Mishnah is teaching us. That's pretty simple. Kamash malan the batzah mahani loinavi, meaning even it's the total amount as well. Besides for that, the morning one is more expensive than the evening one. The other distinction is that the other important point is that it has to total 30. You can have 20 and 10. That the morning one costs 20 and the evening one costs 10 if necessary. If you can't find, if that's the way it worked out, but it can cost less than the total amount of 30. So if this one is less, but this one is more, less samba, that's not going to be a problem. So as long as the total amount equals the amount we need, so that's going to be sufficient. So that's why the Mishnah said the total to tell you that the 18 and 12 is not as exacting as the total amount for both have to be 30. The Kollel alma is, but everybody, however, is on the same page. The shachar adifa, that the morning linens, the big day kahuna, the garments of the kohen for the morning are going to be more expensive than the afternoon ones. Menolan, how do we know this? Amar Rav Huna bereider Rav Eloi. So Rav Huna said in the name of Rabbi Eloi, Amar Kra, because the Torah says in the pasuk about the clothing of the Kohen Gadol, it says 4 times linen. Kesonas bad kodesh yilbash, a shirt of linen he shall wear. Umechnase bad yelbasar, and linen pants. Uvavneit bad yachgor, and in a linen belt. He will umitznefes bad yitznuf, and with a turban of linen. They are holy garments, etc. Right? So it says linen, 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 linen 4 times. It could have just said a shirt that's holy and the pants that's holy, and it should be linen, and that would be sufficient. Why did it have to tell us that it is 4 times that it's linen? To tell you that muvchar babad, it has to be the best of the linens. Now, to tell you, it says 4 times. So Rashi just says, it says it about the morning garment, to tell you that the morning garment has to be the best of the best. Now, it really says it about the whole day, not just about the morning garment. Tosfos has a different way of interpreting this. Tosfos says, one is there to tell you that it needs to be linen. Fine, sure. And one is to tell you that in Hebrew, the word bad can mean linen garment. Levad means alone, meaning only that. So it could be the one word is bad to tell you linen. The second word is to tell you that it is levad, only that. That meaning there's no gold with it. And the third one is to tell you now it's got to be linen's linen, like the best of the linen, and more than the rest of the year, because the rest of the year also the Kohen would wear linen garments. We're still on Lamed Hey Amud Aleph 35a at the bottom, the last line. And the fourth one is to tell you that the morning one has to be better than the evening one. So that's the way Tosfos learns the 4 terms of bad. Either way, from the fact that it says bad, 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 linen, 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 linen 4 times, is there to tell you that the morning one has to be the best of the best linens. Now we're at 35b at the top. Mesaveh. So ask a question. They will wear other garments. So this is in Yechezkel, where Yechezkel talks about and the Kahanim and coming in and changing the clothing. The community would come and they would come to the outer courtyard. So it's a little bit cryptic what's going on in Yechezkel, that in that psukim, in what Yantav he's talking about, or what specific job is being done. So it says over there in the pasuk, when they would go out to the outer courtyard, to the community, they will take off the garments that they are servicing, that they do the avodah with, and they will wear other garments, and they will not sanctify the people with their garments. So they wear other garments. So in the simple reading, it means that when they go out to the community, they may not be wearing the Kohen's garments. They have to come out and put on other garments when they go out. Okay. Now the Gemara's drash on the pasuk says no, that's not what it means. It's the other way around. They were wearing garments that they were eating their karbanos in, and so that can be talking about Yom Kippur. So when it's going out to the V'tzeisam about going out to the outer courtyard, that's talking about on Yom Kippur, and they come and they come to the outer courtyard. It means when they're going into they're about to go into the Holy of Holies, so they're going to the mikveh to change, and it's talking about the Kohen Gadol, and he's putting on other garments. This is when he's completing the service, ready to go out to go home. So this is where he's going to put on other garments, and this is going in to take out. So the way the Kohen Gadol's service was, he would do the morning, the daily karbanos. He would do the Yom Kippur service in linen garments. He would come out and he would do the rest of his ram, the ram of the community, and then he would put on other linen garments to go back into the Holy of Holies, to the Chatzar HaChitzona, to the outer courtyard, means to the outermost space that he's allowed to go to, which is the Holy of Holies, then when he's allowed to go in there. And for that, he's going to put on other garments. What are these other garments? My love, so what does it mean other garments that he's going to put on? Wouldn't you say that it means other in that they are even greater, even more holy, better than the others? So if he in the morning he went in and he wore fine linen garments, in the evening when he's going in to take out the last time he's going to the Holy of Holies, he has to put on even nicer. Maybe that's the meaning of acherim, other garments. Because otherwise, Rashi says, why would he say other garments? Just say, and he will wear garments if it's lesser. So it says, like, nevertheless, it needs to be pechusim. They are less. And what's the reason? Rashi says, because all he's going in for is to remove the vessels that he brought in, the pan and the incense bowl. So he's only going in to remove things. The first time that he wore the linen garments, the Kohen Gadol is going into the base Kodesh HaKadoshim, to the Holy of Holies, to actually do the service. So he's going to have the nicer garments. When he's changing into the linen garments the second time, that's the lesser part of the service. He's just going back into the Holy of Holies to remove, to clean up, to take out the pan and take out the shovel. So he doesn't need to have the nicer garments, and that's why it says begadim acherim, other, not as nice, not as important garments. Tana Rav Huna Bar Yehuda. Rav Huna Bar Yehuda is taught. V'amri la Rav Shmuel Bar Yehuda. Some say it's Rav Shmuel Bar Yehuda. Achashakol tza'avodas tzibur. After the communal service is over, now he's going to do his own service. If his mother made for him nice garments, then he's allowed to wear it. And he can do individual service, not communal service. Now, Rashi points out, even though this is a communal service, the rest of the days avodah is also going to be a communal service. Going into the Holy of Holies to remove the pan is also communal service. So if he's going to make the linen garments, the second set of linen garments are going to be made by his own family for him. He's only supposed to use that for an individual service, personal service, not for the communal service. And he's going into the Holy of Holies on Yom Kippur. That wouldn't be personal. So Rashi says that really it's not a communal service at all. It's not really a service. There's no avodah in removing the pan. That's really a part of part of the cleanup process. He's going in there to clean up, and so therefore that's more personal. As the Kohen Gadol, it's his job to make sure that which he's done is also not going to leave a mess around. He's not just going to leave the utensils that he used in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. It is interesting to note, and a very important idea to think about. The Kohen Gadol is already wearing linen garments. He's doing the service of the Yom Kippur, and he's going to take them off to do some of the rest of the avodah, the service, and then he's going to put on linen garments a second time, which will cause a total of 2 other mikvahs and 4 other hand washings, and a whole set of new linen garments, all to remove the the pan from the Holy of Holies. And he's going back in. And the Gemara here says it's not really a part of the service. It's really just like a cleanup job. So it's considered an individual's, his own personal thing. And yet, it's so crucial and to the service that we're going to make separate linens for him. And it's going to have to be this specific type, and he's going to end up going to the mikveh an additional 2 times and 4 hand washings, just so that he can change into the white linens to be able to remove this this part, the pan and the shovel of ash from the Holy of Holies and the Kodesh HaKadoshim. So there's something to think about what the lesson is. What do we learn from this idea that there's a whole additional array of service and changes and garments, all for his need to go in and clean up after himself in the Holy of Holies. So Gemara says Pshita. However, it has to be that even though he's making these linens on his own or his family is making it for him, he's allowed to wear it as long as he hands it over to the community, meaning he donates it as a communal, it belongs to the community, and then it'll count. So Gemara says if it belongs to the community, he's donated to the community, for sure he can wear it. Who cares who made it? If his family made it for him, but if it was donated, it's donated. Pshita. Perhaps he's not going to have wholeheartedly donate it to the Beis HaMikdash, and therefore it's it won't count as a communal garment. Therefore, Kamash Malan. That's why we have to say that we're not worried about it, and we allow him to wear such garments. So here talks about this idea that the Kohen is, we assume that the Kohen is going to be a gracious and going to intend that which he made and the special, nevertheless, will belong to communal service. And when do we say that, maybe the Kohen is going to be a little selfish? And it says that they make, there's a value in them in the service. It's not a particular skill, so therefore it's going to be allowed. The Gemara now tells a story of Rabbi Tzvi Fischer and his family, which was very wealthy, and what kind of garment they made for him. Amar Allah Rabbi Shmuel ben Pavi. Rabbi Shmuel ben Pavi, it says, his mother made for him a linen pants to do the service in the Beis HaMikdash, worth 100 mana, lots of money. Meaning she got the finest and best of the linens and had it made done in the best way. And he did it, and he wore it for the communal, for his personal service, and then he donated to the community. Gemara further says, sorry? Yeah. And they said about Rabbi Tzvi Fischer, who was extremely wealthy, his mother made for him a shirt worth 20,000, an insane amount of money. And it was such fine linen that even after he was wearing it, it looked transparent. It was so thin and so finely woven that it was too transparent. So he's wearing the shirt, but it looked like the shirt was transparent, and so they let him wear it. So the Gemara says, can you really see through the linens? I mean, these were thick linens. This was a 6-ply linen. Okay, these would they have very fine linen, but it was also woven into 6-ply threads. Yes, even though it was thick, nevertheless it was so fine that it was like wine in a glass, where you can see through the glass to see it. So to here, it was transparent. The Mefarshim bring that what they did to be able to make it less transparent, that they made it wet. Okay, they made it wet, and he wore it, and he walked around the mizbeach, the top of the mizbeach, multiple times, and so the smoke from the mizbeach attached itself to the wet, and that made it darker, so he would be able to wear it. Wasn't no, not that, no, but it was But the ash from the mizbeach or the discolored it enough that now was not pure, like this really fine transparent. It was more dense or dark. Tana Rabbana, ani va'ashir v'rasha, ba'in ladin. Everybody has to face judgment in Shemayim eventually. So they come, and one person may be a poor person, one may be a wealthy person, one may be someone who had a difficult time choosing right from wrong. So ba'in ladin, they come to judgment. So la'ani, so the poor person is saying to him, why don't you study any Torah? And we know the Gemara tells us elsewhere that the first questions in Shemayim is about Torah, right? Those are first questions. So they say to him, how come you didn't study any Torah? He said, what am I supposed to do? I was a poor man. And as a poor man, I could not afford to study Torah. I was so busy just making ends meet. And I was busy sustaining myself and my family. Are you any poorer than Hillel was at first? Now Hillel in the end became the Nasi, the leader, and he was wealthy. But at first, even though that he was of the descendants of David HaMelech, and he was of the family of the Davidian line, nevertheless, he was a pauper, as we'll see here, totally destitute. Amr Olav El Hillel Zakin, they said about the elder, Hillel the elder. He worked every day, to try and make enough money to at least have one tarpik, which is it's a coin, it's a sela, whatever, half a dinner, and he would pay half to the academy to allow him in, and half he kept for himself. Why did he pay? Why was there a charge to get into Beis HaMidrash? Because they would have heat on, and people would come and just for the fire and not for the learning, and for the dignity of the place, they would keep it that way. So you have to pay some money to contribute to the fire in order to come in. So he would pay. Now there's another question. Allah, we know that the halacha is that for a mitzvah, you only pay 20% of your total money, and here he's paying 50% of his money. So it could be for Torah study. It's different. In any case, so he keep half for his household. One day, it turned out that there was not. He did not have. It was a Friday, and he didn't make enough money to pay for the academy, for the Beis Medrash. So he had enough money to pay for him to bring home and to feed his family for Shabbos, but he didn't have the money to pay the doorman at the academy. But he still wanted to learn. So that night after the meal, he went to the academy to listen to the shir, to the to listen to the class in the academy in Beis HaMedrash. But they didn't allow him in. They said, sorry, you didn't pay today, and you can't come in. So what did he do? He wanted to listen. So he went up onto the roof where there was a skylight, so that he can press his ear against it to try and listen. To hear the words of the living God, from his great teachers, Shmai and Naftali. Amru, and they said, it was Friday night. And it was a winter's night. And that night, a heavenly snow came down. It's interesting that it says a heavenly snow, right? It should say snow came, right? Obviously, where's snow coming? It's not growing from the ground, right? Why did it say snow from heaven? The Mufar should say that this was not a typical, it was unexpected. It was not, because otherwise you're not allowed to endanger your life, right? So he was endangering himself. It was an unexpected min hashamayim. It was something abnormal that happened. When the morning came, Amar Lahu Shmaya Avtalion. Shmaya said to Avtalion, Avtalion, my brother. The whole Yom Abayis Mar. Every day there's light coming in from the sunlight, from the skylight. But it's dark today. But is it really cloudy out? Is this cloudy? They looked up at the skylight and they were able to see that there was a human there. Baruba in the window. They found upon him 3 amma of snow. By the way, where did we see that? What? That's an enormous amount of snow. But like in all stories, we can't take them literally because if we do, you lose a toe. You need all your toes. But just to think about this, where else did we see this number? Roim sholosh amas, the height of 3 amas, a mikvah. A mikvah must be 3 amas high, right? So he is covered by heavenly snow 3 amas high, totally immersed in spirituality, totally immersed in a divine mikvah. Anyhow, so matzah olav shalosh amas, roim shalosh amas sheleg, snow 3 amos high. Parku. So they took him out. V'her chitzu, and they washed him off. V'sichu, and they anointed him with oils, meaning they were rubbing him in order to massage his limbs back to life and bring him back. V'shavu keneged madura, and they put him near a fire. All right, so they're doing all life-saving measures to bring him back to life. This person is worthy for him for us to desecrate Shabbos for him. Now, this too is a question. We know the halacha is that you break Shabbos for anybody. I mean, you don't have to be the great scholar Hillel. We break Shabbos to save a life, even if it's not as great as Hillel. So what does this mean? But the idea is that even though he had immense poverty and couldn't afford it, and it was a freezing winter's night, he did whatever he can and whatever it takes so that he can learn Torah. So if somebody comes to Shemaim and says, "Why didn't you learn Torah?" I was poor. I couldn't afford it. Well, poorer than Hillel? Ashir, somebody's very wealthy. And he comes to Shemaim and say, "Well, why didn't you study Torah?" Well, I had to manage my portfolio. I had all these properties I had to look after. And you know what it is to have all these servants, and you're like, you got to put the butler in line and like eating. Yeah, it's really tough. Asher, he says, well, I was wealthy, but I was so busy with all of my assets. So they say to him, Klum Asher Rabbi Elazar, any wealthier than Elazar bar Charsam? Rabbi Elazar bar Charsam, it is said about Rabbi Elazar bar Charsam, this one whose family made for him these linens that were so fine and they were transparent or translucent. His father was a landowner. He had 1,000 cities or villages that his father owned and left for him. Beyabasha, that was on the land. And equivalent to that, 1,000 ships on the seas. So an extremely wealthy personality, person, and he inherited all this wealth. And yet he would go from he would take a container of every day he would take a little container of flour to make himself a little bit of food, and by himself on his shoulder, and he would go from one city to the next or from one country to the other in order to study Torah. And he did so not in the prestige of a whole set of chariots, but as someone would, as anyone else would toil to get there and eat and work and breathe the Torah that he was studying. In fact, one time he was in one of his own in his own property, right? And he's a big landowner, and so he's in one of his places, and the guards there didn't even know who he was, right? So they didn't recognize him, and you're coming in, you got to pay a tax. This is land, and also by Hungaria. So they said that if you want to if you want to come in here, you're going to have to work. Please, I beg of you, let me go so I can study Torah. By the life of our master, Elazar ben Charsam, we're not going to let you. And so until he was able to convince them to let them go, they didn't want to let him go study Torah. And he would never go, and they never had seen him because all he was doing was studying Torah. So even his own people did not and could not know who he was because he was always busy studying Torah. Even though that he had, so too, somebody said, yes?
There was a little footnote. He symbolizing if there is no flour, there is no Torah.
Yeah, with the Mishnah, right, from Avot, right. That you have to sustain yourself and eat. All right. Russia. What about somebody who beautiful he is because of the attraction he is? So Russia, they say to him, why don't you study Torah? Amar, no, you see, Torah be Yitzri. So you know what? It's not my fault. God made me this handsome and I look this great. This attention, and I have to, I was my Yetzer Hara, my evil inclination is always being, pushed to its limit. Amr like Kulum no Yosef. Well, are you more beautiful and more attractive than Yosef? Struggle. Amr al Yosef Atzadik is said about Yosef Atzadik. Every day, the wife of Potiphar, try and seduce him with words. Also with clothing, she would change her outfit from the morning to the afternoon to the evening, so every time he saw her, she tried. All right, that wasn't attractive enough. Maybe this will get your attention. And same, she would switch out again. Amra loy, and then she said to him, Hishamali, listen to me. Amar lalav. No, I'm not going to do this. Amra loy hareini chavshascha beveis asur. I'm going to lock you up in prison. I'm going to have you locked up in prison if you don't come to me. Amar lo Hashem mateos. All right. Hashem is the one that eating. I'm going to cause you to be broken and hunched over. Hashem is okay. Hashem is the one who puts a strength. Hashem is the one that gives everyone the ability to stand up right. I'm going to gouge out your eyes. So she gave him 1,000 chunks of silver so that he would listen to her. Lishka vetzla, to lie with her. Liha is ima. So the pasuk says to be with her. He didn't want to listen to her. Lishka vetzla. What does it mean to lie down with her? That means to actually have relations with her. Liha is ima, because he knew that if he did, he will remain with her loylam about to the world to come. That the same, the actions that Yosef would do in this world will remain in the world to come. So we find that Hillel is the one that holds the poor people responsible for their Torah study. You can study Torah even if you're poor. And Rabbi Elazar Becharasim Mechayves Ashirim. Elazar Becharasim is the one who keeps the wealthy in check, because but a wealthy person also has to study Torah, because you see Elazar Becharasim did it. And Yosef Mechayes Rishayim, Yosef is the one that holds the Rishayim responsible, because they too, you see Yosef kept stuck to what was right, even though it was difficult, even though he was challenged every day. And so the idea is that no matter what our challenges are, we have the ability and must maintain the righteousness of what we have and who we are in order to do the Ritzon Hashem. All right. Bez Hashem, tomorrow and the next day, on 2 days of Shavuos, we're going to be before Mincha, same schedule as on Shabbos. And for the rest of the week, and from here on, Bez Hashem, we're going to be in person in the morning as well as on Zoom.